a chart even to remind him of for his daily treatments. Patty monitored his every step, and when Bud would get a little resistant, well, Amy would come over, and Bud would quickly get back onto the program. When he struggled with his breathing therapy, it was Amy who guided him through. And nearly every day, Doug would be with his father. Even on that last awful day, Doug was with him, encouraging him, holding his hand, talking about their next golf match. And holding his hand as he breathed his last was the love of his life. It was Patty. Through thick and thin, Bud found humor and spirit. Gamzula Tova. He was not going to let setbacks get him down. And now, as you, his loving family, and this whole community, as we're trying to imagine a world without his joy and his smile and his laughter, and that crazy outfit he would wear just to embarrass Jill, and his love and honor and his legacy, remember the sweetness. This world and this community is better for having had Bud Rittenberg bless us for 83 years. Now it is our task to carry on his loving spirit. It is time to nurture and heal and continue the goodness of your remarkable family, the family he loves so dearly. His son, would you come and share with us?
So, thanks. I'm going to do a lot better than this insight. Thank you all for making it here today and celebrating the goodbye of our dad. We're really thankful we could do this in person. That would have sucked doing it on Zoom. Well, I have this handkerchief here. Clearly I'm going to need it. And my dad gave me this. Because along with that, he gave me this. I can cry at anything all the time. Ron's alluded to a good commercial, and I'm typically crying. And then I made one. And there was an extra one on the counter, so I thought you forgot that, so now I have two. So if my nose runs, I'll use that. It has a B on it. And then I have the one I'm planning to wipe my eyes. I didn't think I'd need these, but I do now. I have 18 font going. So here we go. I'll try not to improvise. I've left so many tears in this room in particular over the past 20 years. I've had happy and fearful and sad and pondering moments in this very room. And today's, just a lot of sadness. But there's some joy. When you look at all the people in this room, man, there's a lot of people in this room. If you knew Buddy, which clearly most of you did, that's exactly what he just said. And he just said it again, and again, and then again, and again. This is not only one of the greatest honors in my life to speak on behalf of my father, but it's also an obligation for me to fulfill a commitment that he requested to me many, many, many ways for many years after I did it for my grandpa, Teddy. So even though I feel like I have a broken heart and I'm empty inside, I'm beyond full of love, and I'm up here on behalf of my family. Most importantly, to attempt to make my dad proud. Just one last time with you guys. So here we go, Dad. This one's for you, buddy. With scary topsiders, loud socks, or no socks at all, unbuttoned shirts, you know, his chest sticking out like Miami Vice, and gold necklace with a charm in front and center. Looks just like this one. To today, where he'd be wearing the same shoes, same pants and jeans, but a Vineyard Vine shirt that my sister, my brother, and wife, and my kids gave him. One smooth, cool, charismatic guy was our beloved buddy. You should also know that he's dressed looking sharp right now, right in front of me. He's wearing purple topsiders, loud blue socks, jeans, his favorite paisley button-down shirt. He gave me this shirt. I've never worn it, but I figured I'll throw this up today. And his favorite Gucci belt that he's had, I'm pretty sure, as long as I've ever been alive. My mom was kind of freaking out yesterday where we had to find that damn belt because he didn't keep things very organized. So I'm sure we're going to learn a lot more about that. Mr. Bud, Budge, Schmuck, Sweetie, Big, Dad, Daddy, Papa. Lots of nicknames for a one-of-a-kind guy with a heart of gold. Our dad's real name was Theodor, but he was given that nickname he heard about at a young age when his mom was sick by the mailman. Yeah, the mailman, of all people. Not the way you would think, right? He got to know the mailman, I suppose, he was out front all the time, and the guy would pull up and he'd say, "Hey buddy, and it stuck. There are a lot of people here, or what? Man, would you believe as a kid I thought my dad created the pull my finger fart move? The striking wit, super fast, a sense of humor at all times, even to his very last day. Our dad was amazing. For an example, let's go up these over here. For example, the other day a nurse came in and looked at me and said, "I need to take his blood right now. Is this a good time?" And voice wasn't all that strong, but he said, "Hold on a minute. It's my blood. You need to ask me." Another example from last week was Amy and I had to borrow his car because she had some recalls. Hers in the shop, so I'm sitting there with him BSing in the ICU, and I'm telling him how we're going to kick him into gear after we get out of that place, and really work hard to recover, so be back on the course with his boys. And then I changed the subject to how his fancy car was just gutless. It's like even in sport mode, Tiptronic, it felt like I was dragging an anchor. And he put his hand up. He's like, "You can give me all the crap you want. Don't talk shit about my car." Shy, he was not. Bud would speak to anyone at any time, anywhere, and he would embarrass the heck out of Jill almost all the time, and even to sometimes make me sink in my chair, which wasn't easy. But it was him, and God loved him for it. I'd like to think that I do have some of my dad's finest qualities, but I also know I don't hold a candle to how he did. Can you believe how many people are here? Our dad retired when I was just finishing college, basically the age I am now. The Armature Creek Mall was built, and it ripped a good bulk of his customers over to the big name brand stores. Kind of the first phase of what happened in Colorado to become, over the years. He fed Mr. Bud's a lot of money for a couple of years trying to keep it competitive and alive. But in the end, the mall won, and he closed the doors. Even when I went to college, I assumed one day that I would run that store with my brother and sister. And, they'd officially start calling me Mr. Doug, which, those of you who are my bar mitzvah, he coined me that. I was officially a man, and I could be called Mr. Doug. So I used to struggle with the fact that he retired, at such a young age. I remember all the years him leaving for work when I was a kid at 6 a.m., being home every single night, ready for family dinner at 6 p.m., My mom used to even cook back then. He had a big presence. He held a presence all over Denver. When I went to Cherry Creek High, 5,500 kids, pretty much half of them were female. Half of them were walking around with my dad's name on their folio bag purse. Mr. Buds. And when it came to birthdays or holidays, he'd let me go in the basement of the store, grab a fistful of those bow earrings, the colorful bow earrings. I'd give those out to all the girls, let them get a kiss. And once in a while, he'd let me snag a couple of those folio purses too. I have a very strong work ethic. I get up at the crack of dawn, and my day gets rolling. Our dad did retire, but it wasn't because he wanted to, and it wasn't because he was lazy. I mean, I got lazy later. He retired because he was never going to find a job to give him more joy than being Mr. Bud of Mr. Buds. And that's what I know I've got to my work ethic. Jeez, there's a lot of people here, isn't there? Budgie is not what you'd call a handy guy, unless handy correlated to picking up the phone and calling me or a serviceman for help. I wouldn't say he had a significant bias for action either, but boy, did he have a sense of urgency. When he wanted something done, or when Terry lived here, our phones rang and kept ringing, and he'd call back and again, and you just had to get over there and put out the ring. So he didn't just call one day, or I'm talking multiple times a day. So I'd go over there and he'd follow me around the house with whatever I was doing, fix or build or whatnot, like a shadow. I said, what can I do? What can I do? How can I help? How can I help? Not once, but over and over. Kind of a theme, I suppose. Consistently consistent and persistent. Over and over, I would often say, yes, Dad, move. Stand over there. Get out of my way would probably help. And he'd smile at me with that infamous smile. He was very impressed over the years with my fix-it-ability, even though I was really just kind of a skilled Jimmy Regan kind of guy. I put a ton of stuff together where there was always screws left over, and he had no clue, and he'd always say, you get your handyman skills from me. For the record, my dad could barely turn a screwdriver successfully. Act like clockwork. I get the calls every year when the time changes from the daylight savings. I need to come change the batteries and all the smoke detectors. Funny enough, actually, he got promoted, and I was like, okay, Dad, you can help. You can hold the batteries. And then, we'd swap, and he'd give me one, I'd give him one, he'd give me one. The last time we literally did this, all of a sudden, he's got all these way too many smoke detectors, and there's a room, just won't stop beeping. So I'm like, get over there, and I'm like, get it, Dad. Fart around this thing. It's fine. I was like, pull the battery out and do what nobody wants to do with a 9-volt, and I stick it on my tongue. I'm like, Dad, you gave me the wrong battery. He's like, no, it must have been a bad battery. So I think we both pretty much knew that he just mixed up the simple pocket move. I went and got on the battery and fixed that. No, in all seriousness, as my dad would say, there was nothing better than seeing that gleam in my dad's eye, our dad's eye, especially when he was proud of me. And I remember it from my early years as a kid. Me hamming up in front of his friends just to make them smile, trying to be funny. I saw that beautiful look over the past 18 years with my daughters. Words wouldn't define that feeling, but I'd just say that it was the warmest of warm feelings. And I'm not going to go too deep here or I'll really lose it, but let's just say Papa always showed up and loved the living crap out of Amy and Mike roast. Just look at all the people in here. Patty, Pat, Patricia, Honey. Man, did Dad love my mom. No different than how Teddy adored Jane. If I had $1, honestly, for every time my dad told me how beautiful he thought my mom was, I would have thousands of dollars. He was dedicated, concerned, and caring. He was always, always there for my mom, right there by her side. The example of all examples of when a man really loves a woman. As you heard, my dad fell in love with a messy-haired, sick high schooler from the east side. He's seen that messy-ass hair for 60-plus years, and every day, and he never, ever lost that attraction to my mother. I told my dad literally everything, and I mean literally everything. He was such a good sounding board. He listened, he asked questions, much more than gave life lessons or stories of advice. He'd give advice if I asked, but really only if and when I asked, unless he thought I was way out of line with my siblings. I remember one time I asked my dad, well, it was like a few decades ago, I said, "Dad, do you and Mom still have sex?" He said, "Yes, son, 3 times a year. Birthday is an anniversary." I still don't know if he was being funny or serious. My parents went everywhere together, did everything together. As a kid, and to the end, they always aligned with a unified front and supported whatever the other one said and stood by. At times it was quite frustrating, but it was a great example of how to parent, what mutual respect looks like. Dad sure loved Terry and Jill. And me. We were the pride and joy in his life. 3 great kids, all very, very different. And he never judged us. He only loved us and accepted us. He always called multiple times a week. But over the past year, he called, I'm assuming each and every one of us, every single day. Not sure why I was in the call room. I knew to expect his call from 6:45 to 7:15. And I couldn't get a shower. My phone was going to wake everybody in the house. And he called every single morning. Every call, every conversation always had the exact same question. How's the girls? How's work? Every time. Hit play, Dad. Girls are great. Work's stressing me out. But, it was a broad question that I could go deep if I wanted or skirt over the question. You see how many people are in here? Man, it's a lot of people in here. Budgie wasn't always Mr. Sweet Guy. When it came to discipline, he was intense. Back in the day, my dad used to literally have Popeye-like forearms, and wicked, wicked strong grip. And this thick paw, and these fingers were like sausages. And when we get in trouble, or most often when I would get in trouble, my mom would say, "Wait till your dad gets home." And that was some scary shit. Minutes felt longer than ever. He'd show up just like always, just before 6, all prepped to be the disciplinarian. He whooped the heck out of Terry and I. He really did. And Jill was the innocent princess. They used to call her Princess. They even bought her a charm that said Princess. I don't think she ever felt the stinging wrath. But Terry and I did. We knew it real well. My dad would say, "Grab your ankles." And then he'd take out that thick sausage fingered paw and put a significant handprint around our butts. I recall times standing next to Terry, and neither of us wanted to bend over. To grab our ankles, he gets whooped. And, but boy, if you didn't bend over, Bud could quick draw his belt in a flash, and instead of the paw, it was a stinging belt, man, and it hit you from the back of the legs to the ass. And it hurt, way worse. Funny thing is, I've told that story to my kids for years with my dad, and somehow he's magically forgotten about that ever happening. Always denied. I can't believe how many people are here. Our dad always wanted for our happiness and to know how loved we were. "I love you," he said every call, every day, every goodbye. The last one was Saturday morning. As I had to leave, go and run some errands. Well, awake. Finally, he was wide awake. He was sleeping that last week a lot. So he was low on blood, just snapping away. But he was awake, totally awake. I got him, nurse to come in, and got him out of the bed. We weighed him. First time, I think, really ever, he weighed less than me, 174 pounds. I know we were pretty maxed for this last couple of years here, 180-ish. And I got in the chair. We just sat there and talked. We talked about many things. Well, I talked, and he responded really. Just asked the typical questions. How's the girls? And I talked about my dinner with Tess the night before. We went for a daddy-daughter dinner and shared things that Tess and I discussed. I mean, Tess and I discussed a lot of stuff that night. And I told him how nervous Amy and I were about Tess heading off to college. He looked up at me and he said, she'll be just fine. And I talked about Bree, started 10th grade, and how I was worried about, that fast-paced shuffle of fitting in Creek and Bree making good choices. And he said, she's one smart kid, she'll be just fine. He asked me if I had spoken to my brother. I said, no. He said, I really wish you'd call him. So I did it, right then or there. I just picked up the phone, called Terry and Laura on speakerphone, and we had a good chat. When we hung up, he said, thanks, son. And I could tell that call made him real happy. We talked about how he was going to have to work his tail off to get out and get strong again because he was so weak. And he needed to get back to speed so he could golf with his buddies and maybe let me join. It was truly a wonderful, wonderful visit. But then I had to go. I had to head out so I could prep for this big end of summer going to back to school rager we were going to throw at my house. I still had more booze to get even though I had a lot. I needed to get some ice and needed to dial in the backyard a bit. I'd already mowed on Friday just so I could go and spend some extra time with my dad Saturday morning. Usually I mow on Saturday because you're remember. So I headed out, and as I got up to leave, I gave him a kiss on the damp towel that he asked me to put on his head. And I said, I love you, Dad. He said, I love you, son. And then for some reason at the door, I just turned back and said it one more time. And then he did too. That was pretty cool. It was kind of impactful visual memory I got. Man, there's really a lot of people in here. Is there? Friends, man, my dad have friends. He loved his friends so very much. I've always been so envious of the friendship my dad had, and I often do wonder if I'll have those, if all the friends that I have today continue to bless me and be lifelong friends like his. I know all of them, or I knew them, and they're not here either anymore. And pretty much not known them all my entire life. What a suitable name, right? Buddy. They love their buddy too. Each of you all know about my brother and sister and my life in detail because he'd call you too. Darn near every day. Want to go to lunch? Want to go to lunch? Want to go to lunch? There weren't enough days in the week to have all the lunches my dad wanted to have. He loved those lunches and breakfasts. I would do some guest appearances from time to time, and the experience was always the same, just beautiful, great conversations. I got a lot of good stories that came out of those deals. He'd invite me plenty of time, and I just didn't always have the time to grab lunch and drop a hat. So unfortunately, I couldn't always make it. But often I'd give him a call if my schedule allowed for it, and I'd say, want to go to lunch? Not always, but most of the time he already had plans or was at lunch. But he never said, no, don't come. Even if they'd already ordered, he'd just say, hurry up and get her, we'll wait. And if he didn't, he'd say, yes, let's go, man. And I'd say, where do you want to go? He'd say, wherever you want. Cards on Wednesday nights, golf on Wednesdays, Saturdays. Old Budgie has played cards every week my entire life with the same friends, darn near the same group of guys for golf. Just maybe had some golf dropouts over the years. I won't name any names, if you will, but dad was actually a pretty good golfer many years ago. Low 80s, high 70s. But he would agree now that he pretty much stunk. He stunk so bad that his handicap, all he had to do was kind of just barely stink, or stink a little less, and he could take a bunch of money from all the boys. We always spoke at the end of the golf day, depending on which one of us played, discussed how we shot. I'm sure you're going to miss those talks too. I just can't believe how many people are here. I assume many of you in this room had the pleasure of those phone calls with my dad, short, sweet, redundant, but full of love. And I'm sure he did the same with you. He'd play, ask all the real questions. How's your wife? How's your kids? How's your grandkids? How's the family? How you feeling? Then came the goodbye, the best part. He just didn't say goodbye. He really didn't say that. All right, sweetie. Click.